Welcome back. One more live. This is Mukhtar from IH with a great company, Paul and Amanda. We will still continue talking about um, CELTA, especially CELTA online. And this is the third live, and we'll be mainly going into details about the course itself and what is in there, like practically things you can, the components of the course, and much more details that will go through, giving you a deep look or insights about the course. So welcome, Paul. Welcome, Amanda. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thank you very much.
Perfect. How's your day so far? All good?
Yeah, it's nearly over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready to put my feet up.
Well, not for most Egyptians.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. We just
Thursday
start the day
night.
from.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So
Of course, the weekend is starting.
exactly. Some people like stay up till tomorrow.
That's normal, even when it's not Thursday.
Okay. In Cairo, especially, yes. Well. So if we start off our first question, we'll start with our first question, but feel free to drop any question in the chat and in the comments below. We'll be glad to answer it. So the one we have for the moment is because it's online, and can you give us an overview of the online course timetable? Is it any different from the offline one or in any shape or form?
Yeah. It's a little bit different, not significantly different, but usually with the online courses that we've been running, we do five weeks, whereas the face-to-face one is usually 4 weeks, intensively, obviously. But we do 5 weeks, but only 4 days. So usually we do Sunday, Monday, have Tuesday off. You don't need to be with us on the Tuesday, and then back again online on Wednesday and Thursday. So there's a few reasons for that. It just makes it a little bit easier to cope with. Sorry, motorbike. It just makes it a little bit easier to cope with having that day in the middle where you can kind of catch up with things, because obviously with the online course, because you're online, as we've said, this full kind of 8 hours in a day or whatever, it can be a bit much. So the day in the middle helps people to catch up a little bit, plus it's good for us, we can catch up too. And it probably means then that you can actually take one day off of the weekend. Whereas, when you're doing a 5-day course, you kind of feel that you should be working the 2 days of the weekend as well. So this way, it just makes life a little bit easier and takes some of the stress out of the course. But in terms of times, it's kind of similar to a face-to-face course. We usually start around 10 o'clock in the morning and finish around 6:30 in the evening. And of course, during the day, of course, you get breaks. There's a break for lunch. There are breaks between the sessions. So we try to do it so that you do get little breaks away from the screen. And of course, then we encourage you to actually get away from your computer and go and run around your house or something, to stretch your legs between sessions, so that you can come back refreshed after a break. Other things about the timetable, again, in terms of the way it looks, it gives you, it tells you what we're going to do during the day, the teaching practice, input. It tells you when all the assignments are going out and when they're coming in and when we'll give them back to you. So, I mean, the timetable kind of gives lots of information about what the course entails and all the timings and everything.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Paul? Anything I've forgotten?
No, the timetable itself, though, is a kind of vital document to keep in front of you, really, because we put all the links to the different activities in the timetable as well. So you know where you have to go in terms of Zoom. You've got the Zoom links for Amanda's input, my input, elementary teaching. So every time you need to join a room, you can just go back to the timetable. So it's kind of useful to have it there in front of you all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Good. Yeah. Well, it's even helpful to look back to the timetable to know what is coming for the next one. So if you want to prepare anything before the input session as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, if so, what does a typical day on the course look like? Because Amanda, you mentioned something like we start at 10 and finish 6:30 maybe, or something around this. So how a typical day looks like?
Well, typical day, I guess, starts, I mean, as we said, at 10. So in the morning, we have input sessions. So the first input session is at 10 o'clock. And then each input session is an hour and 15 minutes. So basically, 11:15, you then have a break. 11:30, you have the second input session. And then after that, you have the lunch break. So the morning is made up basically of 2 input sessions. I say input, I mean, they're more in the form of workshops. Obviously, they're very interactive. The students are participating, working in groups and so on. But they're the basic input sessions. So those take you up to lunchtime. There's an hour for lunch. And then usually at 2 o'clock, we start the teaching practice. So the teaching practice is in the afternoons. Usually you're teaching for 45 minutes. Each teacher is teaching for 45 minutes. But the trainees on the course are divided into 2 groups. So if there are 12 people on the course, for example, we'd have 6 trainees teaching at elementary level, 6 trainees teaching at intermediate level for the first half of the course, and then the groups change over. So each teacher will have taught both at elementary and at intermediate level. Over the course of the course, over the period of the course, you need to do 6 hours of teaching practice. And generally on these courses, the teaching practice is in 45-minute sections. So when you teach for 45 minutes, and that will happen 8 times, obviously, over the period of the course to give you your 6 hours of teaching practice. The teaching practice is organized so that you don't teach every day. You're teaching every other day. So we said the course is generally held on Sunday and Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. You might find that you're teaching on Sunday and Wednesday, or you might find that you're teaching on Monday and Thursday. But when you're not teaching, you're observing your colleagues, making notes, making reflections about their teaching, and obviously reflecting on the students as well. So that is the afternoon, basically, is the teaching practice. That happens, and once teaching practice is finished, you then take a break for about half an hour. If you've been teaching, during that break, you will need to make a self-evaluation. Think about your teaching and evaluate it. We give you some guiding questions, and those differ obviously during the course, but we give you guiding questions which help you think about your teaching practice and the learning points from it. So what went well, what you'd like to improve on, etc. So that's for about half an hour, and then we get back together, trainees and the tutor who's been observing them, and we have oral feedback. That the oral feedback is not just the tutor telling you what he or she thinks. Oral feedback is you reflecting with the rest of the group on your teaching, and you giving comments to your colleagues in a constructive way, obviously, but looking critically at your own and your colleagues' teaching. So that's a very important part of the course, is the feedback from the teaching practice. And then you have a written feedback as well, which is sent later in the evening for you to reflect on. And then the day ends about 6:30, as Amanda said. So that's kind of a typical day. Amanda, anything else to add to
that? Maybe we can mention that, yeah, there's lesson planning as well.
Yeah, good point. Yes, yeah.
So go on.
No, you do it. You tell us.
All right. So generally, we try to do lesson planning then at the end of the day, but sometimes we have to play about with that. But generally, yeah, it happens at the end of the day after we've had the feedback. So we talk about what's going to happen in the upcoming lessons. So for example, if you're teaching the next day, then you have the chance to ask your tutor questions, maybe run through your ideas and your plan with your tutor, so that we can give you suggestions and advice on what you're thinking about for your lesson. And that usually takes around 45 minutes. So kind of like 15 minutes per person. And we try to do it, as a group, so that everybody benefits from listening to each other, sharing ideas. And of course, it's not just us telling you what to do or giving suggestions. We encourage, the people within the teachers within the group also to contribute and say, oh, well, I think that's a good idea. I would do that maybe differently. Because we're trying to develop this team spirit.
Yeah, I see. It's really effective, and they can build their next lesson based on the feedback we receive from others, other candidates receive. So we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Yeah. Well, if so, what are the main components of the course? So there are input, then teaching practice, feedback, and so on. What else can be added to this as main components of the course?
Another main component, and we have talked about this in other live sessions, but another main component is the written assignments. So there are 4 written assignments throughout the course, and they are quite practical. So, for example, one of the assignments, you work with a student, you interview a student, and you find out something about their language strengths and weaknesses, and then you write an assignment about that. There's another assignment about language, so analyzing language. Another assignment is looking at either a reading text or a listening text, and basically building a lesson around it. And then the final assignment is you reflecting on your experience during the course. So you talk about what you've learned, you talk about your strengths and what you need to work on, and you think about what you're going to do once the course is finished. So the assignments are quite practical. Of course, you need to include some theory in those assignments. So you can refer to input sessions maybe, or you can refer to background reading that you've done, to show that you can that you can combine theory and practice together. The assignments have a word limit, and often candidates get a little bit stressed out about that word limit. They want to be able to write more. So the word limit, the top word limit, is 1,000 words. And I mean, the word limit is there for a reason. We don't want candidates to spend, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours writing and writing and writing and writing. The word limit is there to make you be succinct and to put your ideas together in a clear and meaningful way. Because often, if candidates have gone over the word limit, it's because they've waffled, or they've put they've put stuff in that's not relevant, for example. So the word count is there for a good reason. And obviously, it makes our life easier as well. We don't want to be reading novels, we haven't got time. And with the assignments, you can, of course, you can, if you've got a problem with an assignment, we always give you feedback and tell you, what you need to do to improve it. You can resubmit each assignment once. And you have to pass at least 3 out of the 4 assignments. Failing one is not a big deal. Of course, we don't want anybody to fail anything during the course, but sometimes it happens. But yeah, failing one assignment is not a problem. Failing 2, that's not good, and that could basically lead to you failing the course altogether. But of course, we try and give you as much support as possible so that doesn't happen. The assignments are kind of what's the word? They're divided between not divided, that's the wrong word.
Staggered over the course.
Staggered, that's the one I was looking for. Thank you very much. Yes, the deadlines are staggered during the period of the course, so you're not having to do them all at once. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the other major part of the course, the main component of the course, Mukhtar, to answer your question, is the observation of experienced teachers. So we've said you need to teach yourself for 6 hours. During the course, you need also to observe experienced teachers for 6 hours. So how is this achieved? I mean, you have 1 hour when you will be watching your tutor teach live the group of TP students that you will be teaching. So you observe your tutor for an hour. And then the others are either people teaching online or people teaching face-to-face. Obviously, they're in the form of videos, but videos of people teaching online or videos of people teaching face-to-face, which you complete over the period of the whole course. A couple of them we integrate into input sessions. So that takes a bit of the time pressure off people. Not all this observation needs to be done outside the course hours, but some of it does. So it's probably about half and half, I guess. About 3 hours are integrated and 3 hours are outside. So those are the main components: TP, input, written assignments, and observation of experienced teachers.
Great. Well, so which of these components are determined for being to pass or to fail the test? I mean, how are candidates assessed based on which of these components, or if there is anything else?
Okay.
Well, mainly, candidates are assessed on their TP, their teaching practice, and on the written assignments.
So
the teaching. Sorry.
Yeah. So TPs, the 6 hours TPs, and the full written assignments are determined, or they are the things that determine the degree. Okay.
Yeah. The teaching practice. Each time you teach, you will be given. I don't want to say a grade, but a result of the teaching practice, if you like. So you will be told that teaching practice is to standard, it's above standard, or it's below standard. So each time you teach, you will know whether you taught to standard or not, or above standard, for each of the teaching practice sessions. The assignments aren't graded in that way. The assignments are just pass or resubmit or very, very occasionally fail, but generally pass or resubmit. Something Amanda didn't mention really when she was talking about written assignments, if I could just add it, candidates do often need to resubmit written assignments. And again, that is not a big deal. It really isn't. We give you very clear guidelines if you need to resubmit. We give you guidelines as to what you need to look at and what you need to alter. And generally speaking, it's not the whole of the assignment that you need to look at. It's just particular parts that you need to polish up. Sometimes it's because of language and you need to edit your own use of English. But generally, again, it's not the whole of the assignment you need to resubmit. And resubmission, if you talk to candidates about this, they will often say it's actually a learning experience to have to resubmit, because you're looking at something again, you're thinking through it again, and you're learning more. So it's not a negative thing, but resubmission does happen quite a lot.
It might be stressful at the time it happens. Because you still have TPs and lesson plans to prepare, a links and sheet, but I believe it's real experience. And it's a really good point that you just mentioned, which is we give you what we're expecting exactly from you to write on this assignment. Following it point by point will help a lot passing it or without resubmission, because that was exactly my experience. I had a colleague who did his CELTA before me, and he passed the 4 assignments without resubmission. And when I asked him how did he do so, it was like, I just stick to what they say, what they need. After I finished the assignment, I checked, did I do this? Yes, tick. Did I do that? I tried the same way, worked out. So it was as simple as that.
Yeah. And that's actually very, very good advice. I mean, the instructions for the assignment are designed to be as explicit as possible and to help you to know exactly what you're going to write in the assignment. So as long as you follow those instructions carefully, then you might not, of course, you might still have a problem and have to resubmit sometimes.
Because I did get comments on my assignments,
But it's really, really important to follow the instructions. And then, of course, if you do need to resubmit, to follow the guidelines and the feedback that we give you. You know, if you don't, then of course you might then end up failing the assignment. But again, that very rarely happens, because people usually do, take on board what we've said to them.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit about the assessment criteria, Amanda?
Sure. Yeah. So for both teaching practice and for the assignments, there are assessment criteria. So for each assignment, there's 3 or 4 assessment criteria, for example, that you need to meet in order to be able to pass the assignment. One of which on all 4 assignments is your ability to write accurately, coherently, and clearly. But depending on what the focus of the assignment is, of course, that the criteria change between the different assignments. With teaching practice, again, there is a list of criteria that we apply when we're observing your lessons. I've forgotten exactly how many there are now, 40 something, 42, 43. Can't remember, but there's a long list. And of course, we don't assess you on every single criteria for every single lesson. To begin with, we're only focusing on some of the criteria, and then as we go through the course, we're thinking about more of them. And of course, in the final couple of lessons, we hope that you're meeting most, if not all, of those criteria in your lessons. We always refer to the criteria so that you know which criteria we're talking about. And there's an explanation of those criteria given to you as well. So if you're not quite sure what something means, you can check it, or of course you can ask us and we'll explain it to you.
Yeah. So to wrap up this point, or to make it like crystal clear, so you're saying that at the very beginning of the TPs, like the first two TPs, for example, the criteria you're following or you're checking are like a few, it's like 5, 10 criterion out of the 40 something, and as long as the course goes with the input and the more information you have, where you're expecting him to apply or the candidate to apply, that's why the criteria keeps increasing. That's
Exactly.
right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes some candidates, and this is not just on an online course, it's the same, of course, for face-to-face
Yeah.
course. So I'm just saying course too many times. I don't know, I forgot what I was going to say.
It applies face to face and online, the same criteria.
Yeah, sometimes candidates get a little bit stressed then about, oh, you know, what are you assessing me on, and do I have to show all these different things? Well, yes and no. I mean, obviously, sometimes some candidates get stuck with a particular thing, like they have issues with giving instructions, for example. So that might be something that we keep mentioning in feedback. But once we feel that instructions are kind of sorted and you're fine with that, then of course we don't particularly mention it in subsequent feedback, because then we need to think about other criteria. So it sometimes feels like, you know, we keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
But we are moving the goalposts each time. But obviously that is important. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to develop during the course.
Yeah. I see. Well, so any other tips for coping with the course? Or I think this is we've been mentioning
Well,
for some
yeah.
quite time.
I mean, in some, I mean, just going back over what we've talked about assignments and TP and feedback. Reiterating what Amanda said about assignments, really. One, they are staggered over the course, so don't leave them till the last minute. You know, work on them as soon as you're given them, and divide the work sensibly over the period of the course. So, you know, again, we're coming back to time management, really, because it's only a 5-week course. The other thing is we give very detailed guidance, written guidance on how to write the assignment, what's expected of you, what areas to cover, and so on. But if you want more guidance, i.e. verbal guidance from your tutor, don't be afraid to ask, because we're happy to do that, rather than you working on something that's not quite what we want, and then we have to go through a resubmission and so on. So if you need more guidance or if you need clarification of something, do ask. Amanda,
Sorry,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, to add to that, actually, another thing which maybe is easier, I don't know, because we're doing the course online, because of the platform that we're using, you can post questions about the assignments to the forums, so that everybody gets the chance to see what your question is, because chances are you've got the same question as everybody else. So then, you know, we can answer that question and everybody can benefit from the answer.
Amanda mentioned background reading. Do the recommended reading. We give you the necessary reading, and it's available to you on Google Classroom. So make use of it, because you need to refer to background reading in the assignment. And the only other things really is it's not an academic essay, so you're not writing in the style of a PhD, but neither is it an informal document. So you need to have this balance between formal language and approachable, understandable, straightforward, concise language. You're not expected to produce lots and lots of fancy words and so on. However, you are expected to produce correct English. So once you've written it, or even indeed as you write it, revise and edit carefully for the correct use of language. Because, as I say, quite often, sometimes this. How can you have quite often? Sometimes you can't. Can you? It's either
You
quite
can't.
often or sometimes. Sometimes quite often. Candidates have to revise, have to resubmit, purely because their language there's lots of errors in their language. So before you submit, revise it. Make use of the computer technology. Which
spell checker. Yes.
Well, yes. I mean, it sort of shows you if there's a grammar error or whatever.
Yeah.
On the computer. Don't ignore those. Make use of it, and make sure that you're handing in something that's written correctly. But as I say, it's not an academic essay. It just has to be nice, concise, correct English.
Perfect.
Tips for TP and feedback, Amanda?
I suppose the most important tip we can give about teaching practice and feedback is listen. Listen to your tutor, listen to your colleagues, listen to yourself. The advice that's been given from everybody, from all sides, of course, is to help you to improve. So particularly when that advice comes from your tutor, of course, yeah, it's important to listen to that. We've got a lot of experience. We've been doing this for a long time, both doing CELTA and, working as teachers. So, we've got a lot of experience to draw on, and we kind of have, of course, a very good idea of what works and what doesn't work. That's not to say that we can't sometimes be wrong. We can be. Or we might have slightly different opinions to what you have. Paul's never wrong. No,
never
I am.
Never wrong.
But yeah, that idea of being open to criticism, open to feedback, that's really, really important. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to get as much as you could do from the course, and and that will make it not as good an experience. In addition, as Paul was saying about with assignments, don't leave them to the last minute. Same with your lesson planning. Don't plan your lesson like an hour before you're going to teach it. Spend some time putting the plan together, thinking through your ideas. Because if you leave it till the last minute, then of course chances are you're going to have problems. So you need to plan it so that you can kind of get it into your head and think about it, and that will make the teaching of it much easier.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, it's not even just getting it into your head, but if you've got it planned the day before, you can put it to your tutor and ask questions about it constructively, and think about it with your tutor and ask for suggestions. If you haven't even thought about it, the tutor can't really give you very much useful guidance on it at that stage. You need to of course.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Sorry. Mokhtar. Another point sort of regarding the feedback that you get from your tutors and from each other. I mean, sometimes inevitably, something might not have gone particularly well in your lesson, or the whole lesson might have been a disaster. It does happen from time to time. And of course, when you've had a lesson that didn't go so well, you're probably feeling quite vulnerable and quite sensitive about it.
Yes.
However, it's really important to not let that get to you too much. And that you think about, why did it go wrong? What were the problems? How can I avoid making those kind of mistakes in the future? And of course, your tutor and your colleagues are going to be giving you feedback about that. So you've got to, listen, and again, take that on board and not take things personally. Whenever someone gives you feedback, they're not trying to attack you personally or anything. So it's important to not kind of get too sensitive about it. That's maybe easier said than done, but yeah, I think again, it's all about this team spirit. If we're working together as a team, then hopefully that shouldn't become a problem.
Yeah. This is a really good point that we keep mentioning, because it's really important, because the perspective will help you a lot to understand and react quickly, so you improve quickly. Well, I
Very
love that
difficult
we.
to explain.
Yeah,
Oh,
as
sorry, I
you
was just
said.
going to say. I mean, it is very difficult though sometimes to do that, particularly when
Well,
you've just taught and you kind of like, so it's difficult, but necessary. You're right.
Yes.
mm,
It's like
yeah,
if I knew this a minute ago, I would change what I've done. But yeah.
Right.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I love the idea that every live we go through, that we give some tips, like practical ones to follow, and they're really helpful. So in previous sessions, we've talked about a lot of we talked about how the course is intensive, and it is really intensive, and so on. So, any further tips on how to cope with this?
Um, well, I mean, I guess just summarising really the tips we've been through, because yeah, balance the workload really is one thing that we've mentioned. Don't leave
Mm.
things to the last minute. You have the Tuesday on this course because we only meet on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You have the Tuesday. There's no input, so take advantage of that day. Don't. It's not
Yeah,
a day. It's not a day off. You need to take some time off maybe, but you need during that as well to make sure that you're working on assignments, working on your um, lesson planning, etc.
yeah,
But it is important what Amanda mentioned at the beginning of trying to keep one day at the weekend aside. So you've got 2 days at the weekend. Make one your CELTA day, and make one your enjoying yourself, relaxing day. So you can relax.
in
You can
case you
refresh.
could.
Huh?
I would add, in case you could.
No, I think
Well,
you need to think
you
about
do
that. You
need
need
to
to plan
really.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You,
I mean, even if you can't manage like a whole day, at least having half a day where you just don't do anything connected to the CELTA, because otherwise, you'll end up burning out, and that's not good. You need to be, you need to have a clear mind. You need to be well rested in order to be able to do your teaching practices, etc., etc. And if you're
Yeah,
absolutely exhausted, then you're not going to perform at your best. I mean, of course, you're going to be tired. This is a very tiring course, which is why we're saying, it is important to take a break and take time away so that you can kind of recharge your batteries and come back, feeling a little bit more energetic.
yes. Well,
and the other one related to that really is a set routine. So make sure you have
Mm.
a routine in terms of when you're doing the work, what you're doing, and so on. Because then it makes it easier to fit the other people in your life, whoever they are, friends, spouses, children, whatever. They can fit in with you, and they know that for this period, that's when they're going to be able to see you, spend time with you. So
Mm.
have a set routine.
Yeah.
Anything else to add? Do you think, Amanda? No.
I guess maybe one more thing is, we've talked a lot about how intense the course is, how tiring it is, how stressful it is, all of these different things. But I think another important point is that, okay, doesn't really help you to cope with it, but of course you should try to get as much enjoyment out of the course as possible, because if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to learn, you're not going to take things away from the course. Easier said than done, I know, but try to motivate yourself and keep yourself going, and enjoy being with your colleagues, enjoy being with the students, get the most that you can out of those sessions, and you'll have a really valuable and exciting experience on the course.
yeah. However, we're talking about online course, but enjoying with colleagues is really something. It's accessible. You can do it. It's
Oh
applicable.
yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, well, one there are WhatsApp groups, so you have WhatsApp groups to keep in touch. But also, people get together on Zoom or whatever and
Yes.
chat through things. So yeah, no, absolutely. The group spirit is still there, even though it's online and you're not face to
Yes. I'm still in contact with my colleagues of the
Right.
online CELTA. So yeah, it's been more than a year now, and things are going really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, being, having that chance to be with your colleagues and spend time both on the course and outside it, okay, virtually, but that is really important.
Yeah. Well, I think Thomas has joined the live recently, and he got
Hi, Thomas.
Hello, Thomas.
yeah, he got a question, and he's saying, in which way a non-native trainee would be ready to pass the course. I think we kind of went through this, but if you'd like to briefly go through it again.
I mean, there shouldn't be being a non-native speaker doing the CELTA is not in any way a disadvantage.
It's not in the criteria. You mean it's nothing to do with whether to pass or not to pass.
No, of course not. I mean, as I think we've mentioned in other sessions, we always interview candidates to check whether they're suitable to do the course or not. And yeah, if we don't feel that someone is suitable, then we don't accept them, because we don't want people to fail the course. We want people to get through it and so enjoy the experience. So it doesn't actually really matter if you're a non-native speaker or a native speaker. However, I suppose, for non-native speakers, as I think we've said before in other sessions, it is really important to make sure that you kind of surround yourself with English, maybe before the course starts, for a couple of weeks, a month, or a couple of months or whatever. Watch things in English, listen to things in English, read things in English, try and immerse yourself in that English kind of spirit. And that then will help you to feel more comfortable and confident when you start the course. But there's no correlation between people who pass and people who don't pass according to whether they're native or non-natives. Everybody has the same chance.
Once they've been accepted, but I mean, you do need to have a minimum. You do need a minimum level of English to be accepted onto the course, and that's generally described as a level of English which is substantially free of error, both in written and spoken form. So both your writing and your speaking needs to be substantially free of error, but that also applies to native speakers. So some native speakers have a high level of error in their written language, for example, and also in their speaking. So, but you do, as a non-native trainee, you do need to think about, is your language level sufficient to join CELTA? And that you'll be told at application and during the interview. If we feel you're not, you need to work on your English more, you'll be told that you wouldn't be accepted onto the course.
And I believe the language itself, your level in the language is not the only determinant for this, because
absolutely
you need language awareness as well, and how capable you do as kind of free time and so on.
I mean, all the factors we talked about in the other sessions, really.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Thomas. And well, I think we've come to an end for today's session. I don't know if do you have anything to add, Paul, Amanda? I think we covered everything we're supposed to.
Yeah. Advertise our next session. We could do that, where we're going to have we're going to have our ex-trainees talking about the online CELTA.
This will be next Monday.
Monday,
Monday, probably
next
at 7 as well. Sorry, we will have ex-trainees, you were saying? Okay, so ex-online CELTA trainees will be joining us sharing their experience, right? Talking about
Exactly.
how did they feel through the course, or how did they make it through. Yeah, okay. I think there will be.
Not how they made it through, but how great it was for them.
They're
Okay.
going to talk about how much they enjoyed it.
It's not a survival course.
Well, it is not a survival course. Yeah. I need to change my language a bit. Yeah. So
But of course, I mean, we can say all these different things from our perspective as tutors. But of course, listening to people who've done the course can give you a much kind of clearer picture of what it's like to go through this process. So yeah, please join us for that session.
So yeah, it will be yes from their perspective as we did from CELTA tutors' perspective as well.
Yeah.
Well, till the moment, till our next live next Monday. Have a lovely evening.
And a lovely weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the one for this live. Yeah, a lovely weekend. And see you again.
Yeah.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Canada.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.